Okay. So in the last class, we have seen, how to define our own user-defined data types like structure, class, okay, and how to create an object and what is a constructor, how to override the constructor, overload the constructor, okay, and static data members, static methods. Next, we will discuss about other concepts. That is going to be collections. Okay, so we have different types of collections support provided in C#. Those are going to be array list, hash table. Okay, so we will see all these. So first thing, why do we need a collection? Okay, let's move towards the first one, that is array. Array is one of the collection. Okay, so why do we need an array? Why do we need an array? Simple. Whenever you want to group set of data members and member functions, both into a single unit, into a container, then we require a container called user-defined data type. That can be the structure or class or interface, right? So if you group your data members, member functions into a single unit, so you will see a lot of benefits over there. What are those? So you don't have to go to memory n number of times. Rather, you can just go to memory only once and pick your object. This will have everything. All your 100 data members and 100 member functions. If you do not group them, if you store them independent in the memory, so what has to be done? You have to go to memory every time to pick your data members. If there are 100 data members, you have to go to memory 100 different times. That will consume a lot of time. So that's why we are using our user-defined data types to group your data members and member functions. So basically, whenever you want to group set of data members, member functions into a common unit, then we require a structure or class. That is fine. Now, within your structure or class, let's say this is our structure. Inside our class or structure, we are defining 100 different data members, 100 different data members, and 100 different methods. Now, within the structure, if you define 100 different data members, so what happens again within your structure, within your common location, again 100 different locations will be created, like A1, A2, A3, A4. Let us assume that this is your common space, ABC. And within this, again, 100 different locations will be created to store 100 different integer values. Again, within your object space, 100 different locations will be created. It will be stored independently in different locations. Within your object also, if you want to pull data of all 100 data members, you cannot pull them at a time. In order to pull A1, you have to go to your object space and search for A1, then pull it. If you want to pull the data of A2, again you have to go to memory one more time and search for A2, pull it. In order to extract the values of 100 data members, you have to go to your object space 100 different times. Let us assume that every time it consumes half second or millisecond, 1 millisecond time. In order to extract the value of 100 data members, you have to go to memory 100 different times. It is going to consume 100 milliseconds time. When it comes to real-time applications, you will be defining thousands of data members. In order to extract the values of all those 1,000 data members, you have to go to memory those many times. So it will consume a lot of time. It will also degrade your search process because it is going to take a lot of time to search these data members and extract your values. Because when it comes to memory, as I said, not only your 100 data members, there can be millions of locations. There can be millions of locations, and yours is one of them. In order to identify a single data member, it has to search the entire space. If there are thousands of data members, there are millions of data members, it has to search all those thousand data members, million data members. So it would consume a lot of time to identify a single data member, right? So that's why I'd like to get rid of this process. I don't want to go to memory 100 different times. I don't want to spend this much time because that will definitely degrade the search process. Right? So that's why I don't want to store my data members like this within my object space. I want to group all my data members into a single container. Are you getting me? So I don't want to define, I don't want to create locations like this. I don't want them to be stored independently like this. Rather, I want to create a common container and I want to keep all these values into that common container. And whenever I need to pull the values of all 100 data members, I don't have to go to memory 100 different times. I just want to go to memory only once and search for that common container. So once it gets identified, I can pull all 100 values at a time. Right? So whenever you want to group set of data members and member functions into a common container, into a single unit, then we require a class. And within the class, if you want to group set of data members into another small container, then we require a collection. Then we require a collection. So the first collection type is going to be our array. We have different types of collections are available here. Whenever you want to group set of data members, set of data values, then we require a collection. So that can be grouped in different ways using different collections. So let's move towards the first one, that is going to be array. When you talk about array, array is one of the collection, high-end collection, which allows you to store set of values, which allows you to group set of values. But the nature of array is it allows you to store only similar data elements. Similar data means similar data types. I mean, I can store, if you want to store only integers, you can store only integers. I cannot store the combination of different data types. I mean, I cannot store different data types like one integer, one character, one string. It allows you to store only similar data elements. So using array, I can store collection of elements of similar data types. I mean, I can hold collection of integers, collection of floats, collection of strings. Are you getting me? But you cannot hold the combination of both at a time. At a time, I'll be able to hold collection of only similar data elements. If you want to hold collection of different data elements, it's not possible. Any questions, guys, so far?
No, sir.
No.
Now let's see. And within your class, how to group set of data members of similar data elements into a container using your first collection called array. Okay. So let's see. When it comes to array, so again, so whenever you want to define any data member, you need to know the syntax defined by the C# system. So specify the scope, access specifier, private or public. Next, data type. As I said, when it comes to array, you can hold collection of data elements, but the type of that data should be defined at the time of declaration. You can hold any type of data, but that type should be defined at the time of declaration. So once it gets defined, it allows you to store collection of elements of only the similar data type. I mean, if I define it as int, you will be allowed to store only integer values. If I define it as float, you will be allowed to store only float. If you define it as string, you will be allowed to store only string values. Alright, so because the nature of array is, so you can hold collection of elements of similar data types only. You cannot hold different data types, combination of multiple data types. So specify the type of data that is going to be held in your collection. Next, here you have to use this symbol like square brackets, which indicates that it is not going to be an ordinary variable. It is going to be a collection. If I remove this, what happens? It will be treated as a normal variable. If I use this, so system will think that, oh, it is going to be a collection. He is going to hold collection of data elements of this particular data type. So specify the type of data. What do you want to hold? Your integer or character? And specify the square brackets. This will indicate that this variable is not going to be a normal variable. It is going to be a collection. Next, name of your array. You can give any name. Is equal to, you would use a keyword called new. Why should I use new? Because Using this is a collection. It can have n number of data elements. You can store n number of data elements. Here in the previous case, if I define A1 can store only one value at a time. A2 can store only one value at a time. But in our case, it is going to be an array. It is a collection. Not only 1, 2, 3, 4. Based on your requirement, you can store n number of elements. But what has to be done? This data has to be stored into your memory. Right? Now, what system should do? It has to calculate how much space has to be allocated. It has to calculate it. The space has to be how much space. Because if I store 10 elements, right, you have to allocate that much amount of space in your memory. Because all those 10 elements should be stored in your memory. Okay. So that's why I have to use a new keyword. So new will take care of allocating this much amount of memory on the slot. And data type, int, a character float, size. How many elements are going to be stored? Whether you want to store 10 elements, 20 elements, 30 or 40, based on your requirement, you should tell the system how many elements are going to be stored into the collection. Once again, I repeat, access specifier, define the scope of your data. Data type, what kind of data is going to be stored into your collection. Next, array has to be defined using square brackets. This would define the nature of variable. It will tell the system, hey, this is going to be a collection. Array name. Next, you would use a new keyword because based on our requirement, based on this size, if I say 10, so whatever the amount of memory is required to accommodate 10 elements, that much amount of memory has to be allocated by the system. Who will allocate it? Your new keyword. That's why you have to use new keyword. New will take care of allocating this much of space in your memory. Okay, any questions, guys?
No.
Okay, let's define a small example. Access specifier, let's say public. Data type, I would like to hold a collection of integer values. I would like to hold collection of data elements of integers. That's why I defined it as int. Next, define nature of your variable. So it is a collection, so use square brackets. Next, name, I'm giving it as a, is equal to, as I said, you have to use a new keyword. If I do not use it, what happens? Memory will not be allocated for your elements. So you cannot store your elements into your collection. So according to the C# standards, whenever you want to store something into array collection, so you have to use a new keyword along with the size. And based on this size, your new keyword will calculate like how much amount of space has to be allocated. And based on this, it will go ahead and allocate that much amount of space in the memory. Okay. Okay. So new int, I'd like to store 5 elements. So I gave my size as 5. Now what it will do? Immediately it will go to memory. What is the name of my array? A. Immediately it will go to memory, creates a common location with the name A. Creates a common location with the name A. And based on this size, it will divide that common location into those many sub-locations. Here I gave my size as 5. Now what it will do? It will divide this common location into 5 locations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I give my size as 10, what it will do? It will divide that common location into 10 sub-locations. So based on your requirement, so those many sub-locations will be created inside the common location. Okay. So based on your name, it creates a common location with array name. And inside this common location, and whatever the size is defined over there, those many sub-locations will be created inside this common location. Right? Now you are allowed to store those many elements. For example, here I specified my size is 5. So 5 locations are created. Now I'll be able to accommodate 5 different elements of integer. Whenever I store first element, where it should be stored? It should go to first location. When I enter my second element, it should be stored under second location. When I enter my third element, it should be stored under third location, and all other elements should be stored in the respective locations in the sequence order. So when it comes to array, The name of this array is A, but internally it got divided into these many sublocations. So each and every location will be maintained its own unique address. Every location will be maintained with a unique address. The location will have its own unique address. Location 2 will have its own unique address. So what is that address? So internally it got divided into these many locations, and the first location, the address of first location will be at 0th index. And second location is going to be at first index. And third one is going to be second. So always the first location starts from 0. And obviously the last one is going to be 4. 4 is nothing but, let's say, if you consider this size as n, if this is started from 0, the last location is going to be available at n minus 1th position. Right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the common location will get divided into those many sublocations, and some sequence numbers will be provided to all those locations. The first location is going to be available at 0th position, and remaining all other locations will be stored at respective positions in the sequence order, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I should tell the system. Now user can store 5 different elements into this space. Now what has to be done? Ask user to enter the first element, read that element, store it into first location of your array. Ask user to enter second element, read that element, and get that stored into second location. But 0, 1, 2, this is not the complete address of your location. Whenever you want to store something into somewhere, you should provide the complete address of that location. You should tell the system, hey, store this element into this location, store this element into this location. You have to drive that process. You should clearly specify that, where to store that element. User just will enter that element, you will read it. Now you should tell the system where it has to be stored, right? So now, whenever the first element is provided by the user, that should be stored into first location. But what is the address of first location? So as I said, the index of first location is going to be 0. It starts from 0, but this is not the complete address. What is the complete address? So the name of this common location is A, and the first location is available at 0th index. So the complete address is going to be, name is A, this is available at 0. So the complete address is going to be A of 0. And what is the complete address of second location? A of 1, A of 2, A of 3, A of 4. Right? Like the way we read all other variables, normal variables. We used to specify something like A is equal to convert that 2 into 32 of console.readline. B is equal to convert. What are we doing there? We are specifying that where to store that value. We are telling the system, hey, store this into A, store this into B, store this into C. But here, externally, this is going to be a single location. We have only one location. Internally, it got divided into multiple locations. Right? So that's why if I say A is equal to 1, A is equal to 6, where it will be stored? A is not a single location. It is a container. Internally, it has set of sublocations. That's why you should clearly tell the system where to store your element. Okay. Now what has to be done? Whenever the first element is provided, get that stored into first location. What is the address of first location? A of 0. Now you have to write something like A of 0 is equal to something like this. A of 0 is equal to, now ask user to enter the element as to 10. A of 1 is equal to, let's say user has entered 20. A of 2 is equal to 30. A of 3 is equal to 40. A of 4 is equal to 50. Now what happens? If I say something like A of 0 is equal to 10, so what happens? 10 will be stored under first location. If I say A of 1 is equal to 20, 20 will be stored into second location. If I say A of 2 is equal to 30, where is A of 2? This is A of 2. 30 will be stored here, and respectively 40 will be stored here, and 50 will be stored here. Right? Now, if I want to print the, let's say I want to know like what is there in A of 2. I want to know what is there in A of 3. I'd like to print the value of A of 2 and A of 3. Are you to me? I'd like to print the value of third location or fourth location or fifth location. How do you print it? Same. For example, I'd like to print the value of third location. How do you print it? Console dot write line. What has to be done? So in order to extract the value of any location, you should provide the complete address of that location. If I want to extract the third location value, where it is available, obviously the first location will always be there at A of 0. Second will be available at A of 1. Third will be there at A of 2. N minus 1th location. Something like A of N minus 1th location. Already. So now if you want to extract the value of third location, it should be displayed something like third location element is where it is available. Third means it is available too. Right? Whenever you want to store something into any particular location, the address of that location has to be specified explicitly by the developer. And when you want to get something from that location, then also you should specify that location. Any questions, guys?
No.
No.
Okay, let's implement this. Okay. Now I'm going to define my array. What has to be defined first? Access specifier. If you do not define anything, it is private. Data type, let's say int. Next square brackets. That will define nature of the variable. If I remove this, what happens? It will be treated as a normal variable. If I keep this, okay, it will be treated as a collection, a special type of variable. Okay, so we are just specifying this. Hey, this is not a normal variable. This is going to be a kind of special type of variable, which is going to hold collection of data elements. That's why we do specify this thing, square bracket, which indicates the collection. A is equal to new int of how many elements are to be stored? 5. Right? Now what has to be done? Now you have to ask user to enter 5 elements and get them stored into respective locations. Now I'm going to ask him to enter the first one, console dot write line. Please enter first element. Right? Now what has to be done? Yes, once you see this message, you will enter the first element. And now you have to specify where to store that first element. Always the first location will be available at 0th position. And the name of this is A. Right? So where it should be stored? The first element should be stored at first location. What is the address of first location? A of 0. Okay. Where to store it? A of 0 is equal to, so it is an integer value, so it has to be converted. Convert dot 2 into 32 of console dot read line. Done. Next, ask him to enter second element. I'm just copying this. Please enter second element. And where it should be stored? A of 1. Third element. Fourth element. Fifth element. Please enter third element. Where it should be stored? Third should be stored at second position. Fourth element. Where it should be stored? A of 4. And fifth element, A of 5. Read me. Here, we have defined the size as 5. That's why here, what is our action? Ask user to enter the element read that element, store it into respective location. This is what our action. And we are writing the same action for each and every element. The same action has got repeated 5 different times. Here we are going to read only 5 elements, that's why you have repeated it 5 times. But if you need to read 500 different elements, should I write the same action again and again 500 times? Guys, please please respond immediately. Should I write that same action
No.
again and again 500 different times?
No.
No. But what has to be done? We should not write this action again and again. When something is getting repeated, when some action has to be written repeatedly, when something has to be executed repeatedly, then what should be your approach?
Loop.
Loop. What has to be done? If something is getting repeated, if something has to be executed repeated n number of times based on your requirements. In our case, what is our action? Reading data from the user, placing it into respective location. This is what our action, right? And this same action has to be repeated for each and every element. If you want to store 100 elements, you need to ask user to enter 100 different elements. The same action is going to be repeated 100 different times. Generally, the same action has to be written those many times. So what it will do? It will duplicate your logic. It will increase the complexity. And your readability is going to be much more complicated. Debugging process would also become much more complicated. Now, what has to be done? If same piece of code is getting repeated many times, do not write that those many times. Rather, write it only once and get that repeated based on your requirements. In our case, if you need to read 500 elements, write it only once and get that executed repeatedly 500 different times. If you need to read only 100 elements, write this only once, get that execution repeated 100 different times. What has to be done? So you should not write the same piece of code again and again, write it only once and get it repeated based on your requirements, only those many times. When some action has to be executed repeatedly based on our requirement, what has to be done? That action has to be placed inside a loop. Then we require a loop. Now what should I write? I should write a loop to repeat the same execution process again and again. How do I write it? Whenever you want to write a loop, what I have to do? I should find out 3 things: where to start, where to end, what is the variation. If you look into this, A is going to be constant, your square brackets are going to be constant, only this value is going to be changed. Right? So where to start? The first location will always be available at 0th position. So it should start from 0. And what is the end limit? The size of your collection is going to be the end limit. Yet the size of the collection is 5. So it has to be repeated 5 times. So end limit is going to be 5. And what is the variation? First it is 0. Next location will be available at first location. Next 2, 3, 4. So the variation between each iteration is 1. So it should start from 0 and go up to this maximum limit. And every time it has to be repeated, it has to be incremented with 1. That is what our action. Let's convert this. Now I would be needing a loop for int. Where should I start? I should start from 0. I is equal to 0. How many times it has to be repeated? I is less than 5. Next, every time it has to be incremented with 1 to go to next location. First, you have to go to 0th location. When it comes to second iteration, it should go to first location, then second location. So to take it to next level, to take it to next location, what has to be done? Every time it has to be incremented with 1 and keep your action inside this loop. Ask user to enter the first element, not first to second element. Now it is not 0, it is going to be I. And what happens? When it comes to your loop, first it is going to be 0. Yes, is 0 is less than 5? Yes, 0 is less than 5. Condition is true. Now it will ask user to enter the element. It reads that element from console window and stores it to A of 5. What is the value of I? 0. A of 0. So it will be stored into first location. Now I will be incremented. I will become 1. Is 1 is less than 5? Yes. It will ask user to enter another element. That is going to be stored at A of I. A of 1 means second location. Next, I is going to be 2. It will become A of 2, A of 3, A of 4. Once this condition becomes false, it will come outside of the loop. Any questions, guys?
No question.
Okay, let's see that. Let's pin this. Now, here you can see your location, right? What it did, once it gets declared, as I said, it will create a common location with the name A, and inside this common location, it will create these many sublocations. See, sublocation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where is my first location? It is located at 0th position. Second one is located at first position, second, third, fourth, right? So now all these are empty locations. The common location got divided into 5 empty locations, right? Now you can go ahead and fill these 5 locations with 5 different elements. Now, we're at the first iteration. Let's go ahead. Now I is going to be 0. It will ask user to enter first element. Let's say 2. See, expand it. What happened? First location got filled with 2. Right? Next, second location. I is 1. It will ask user to enter one more element. 4. See. 4 got filled into next location. In the same way, it will ask you to enter 5 different elements. All those elements may be filled into this. I'm going to just remove this. It will ask you to enter third element. 6. Fourth element, 8. Fifth element, 10. Now see. Any questions, guys?
No questions.
Okay. In the same way, if I want to display the elements of an array, for example, I want to know the value of third location. I want to see what is there in the third location, what is there in the fourth location, what is there in the seventh location. What has to be done? The way how you are filling your location using its address. In the same way, you would identify the location and go to that location and pick up that element. I mean, if I want to print all elements, what should I write? Console.write line A of 0. First element is available at A of 0. Next, I should write, if I want to print second element, A of 1. Next, A of 2, right? If I want to print 100 elements, I should write the same statement again and again 100 different times. But this is not recommended at all. What should I do? Guys, did you understand my question?
Can you repeat it, sir? No question.
Now I want to print all the elements of your array.
Okay.
For example, I want to print the first element. Where the first element is available? At 0th position. Right? How do I print it? Console.write line and print your element. Where is the first element?
Okay.
It is available at A of 0. Next, I want to
We
print
can
second
write
element.
loop for
A of
printing
1.
the elements as well.
A of 2, A of 3, A of 4. If I need to print 100 elements, what has to be done? Same statement has to be written 100 different times. Is it
We
a
need to
best
write the
practice?
loop.
What should I do?
No. We need to write the loop for printing elements as well.
Yes. So write it only once. Okay. And repeat this execution based on your requirement. Where is my first element is available? 0. And to take it to next level, it has to be incremented with 1. How many times it has to be repeated? Based on size of your collection. It has 5. So that's why it has to be repeated 5 times. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than 5. I plus plus. I'm keeping my action inside the loop. Right? Instead of 0, I'm just going to give I. So if you want all elements are to be printed in the same line, don't use right line, use right. And give some space between one element to another element. Please enter element 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. See what happened? Oh, sorry, not 1. It is I.
Yeah.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now you can see all your element. Right? Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Now find sum of elements of your array. Write a program to find sum of elements of your array. How do I find it? First, read your elements. Right? First, I have to go to first location and pick that element. Add it to some variable. Go to second location, pick second element, add it. Pick third, add it. Pick fourth, add it. Read me. So go to 0th location, then go to first location, go to second location. Here, what is our action? Get that value, add it. Get that value, add it. Get that value, add it. And the same exercise has to be repeated 5 different times. Right? If something has to be repeated, something has to be executed repeatedly, then we require a loop. Now here what I will do, I'm going to define a variable called int sum. Right? I'm just going to add those values. Sum is equal to sum plus a of I. What it will do? Initially sum is going to be 0. When it comes to first iteration, I is going to be 0. A of 0 means first element will be added to sum. Next, when it comes to second iteration, A of 1 will be appended, added to sum. A of 2, A of 3, like this, all your items will be added. Console.write line. Sum of elements is where it is available, it is there in sum. Two, 4, 6, 8, 10. Sum of elements is 30. Any questions, guys?
No questions, sir.
Okay, right. So here I'll give you some exercises. Okay. So not int next. Okay, I'll give you later. See, here we have defined the size within the programming environment. Right? Once it gets defined, it is going to be constant. Every time it will take only 5, maximum of 5 elements. But my requirement differs based on different scenarios. In one of the scenario, I need to read 10 elements. In one of the scenario, I need to read 20 elements, 50 elements, 100 elements, 1000 elements. If I define the size, what happens? It is going to be constant. You will be allowed to store only these many elements. Are you to me? That's why I don't want to define the size within the programming environment. I don't want to hard code this value. Rather, this has to be taken dynamically at runtime. Ask user to specify the size. Hey, how many elements do you want to store? 5, 6, 10, 11. And based on that, repeat your loop those many times and read those many elements, place them into respective locations. Right? So this should not be hard coded. Rather, you have to take it dynamically at runtime based on user requirement. In this case, what has to be done? So remove this part. Just define your array. Okay. Now this has to be initialized. Number of locations has to be specified dynamically at runtime based on user requirement. Ask user to enter his requirement. How many locations do you want to store? Ask him to enter it and divide your common location into those many locations. So here I'm going to define a variable called int size. Int size. Now ask him, console dot write line. How many elements do you want to store? Ask him to enter his requirement and read it into size variable. Size is equal to convert to dot 2 into 32 of console dot read line. Now you will enter that size. You will enter that size, right? Let's say if you say, hey, I need 5 locations. And this has to be initialized with those many locations. If you say 10, this has to be initialized with those many locations. Initialized means what? You have to create those many sublocations inside it, and that much amount of space has to be reserved. How do I do it? A is equal to, now you have to use new keyword because yes, mentioned is requirement, the size. Now those many sublocations should be created inside your common location, and that much amount of space has to be allocated. A is equal to new int of how many size. Now what happens? Here, what is my name? Yeah. Earlier I used to write here is equal to new. Now remove it. Now I'm initializing it after taking the requirement from user. This is getting initialized based on user requirement. For example, if size is equal to 10, it is going to be new int of 10. What happens? It will initialize your array, creates these many sublocations, and allocate that much amount of memory. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
So here it is not high. It should be size. I is less than size. Here also it's not 5. It should be size. Whatever is entered by the user, it should be repeated those many times. Print your element and find the sum. Console.write. A of I and give some space between one element to another element. I'm just printing the element value at the same time adding, finding the sum. Now let's see. Now A is empty. See, no location got created inside your A. It is null because we did not initialize it. We did not tell the system like how many sublocations are to be created inside and how much amount of space has to be allocated. That's why it is null. Now we are going to ask user to enter the requirement. How many elements do you want to store? I want to store 6 elements. Now what happens? Now what is the, so we have read that requirement into the size variable. Yes, provided is required. You wanted to create 6 locations. Now we are initializing A. Till now it is null only. Now we are telling the system A, please create these many sublocations inside A and allocate that much amount of space. See, now what happened? 6 sublocations got created inside A. Okay. Enter first element. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, these are my element 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and sum of elements is 21. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
If we are specifying something here, this is called static. If something is hard coded, that is called static thing, right? Once it gets defined, it is going to be constant. You cannot change it. This is called static array. Static array. Static array means in case of static, the size of your array has to be defined within the programming environment. If you are defining the size within the programming environment, that is called static. If you are not defining anything within the programming environment, if you want to make it dynamic, I want to take this on the fly based on user requirement. So if this is getting initialized dynamically at runtime based on user requirement, then it is called as dynamic array. Static array, dynamic array. In case of static array, what has to be done? Size should be specified at the time of declaration. In case of dynamic array, you don't have to specify any size at the time of declaration. Leave it empty. And later, you can get it initialized. You can get it filled. You can get it created. You can get the memory allocated dynamically at runtime based on user requirement. This is called dynamic array. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. So not only int, you can take string, float, anything. Let's say string A. I want to store list of movie names. String movie list. Right? Size. Hey, how many movies do you want to store? Right? So read that. A is equal to new string of, not A. What is my array name? Movie list. Movie list is equal to new string of size. Okay. Defined array with the name movie list. Asking user to enter, hey, how many movies do you want to store? Now getting this initialized with those many locations. Now ask him to enter the movie name. Please enter movie name. Now I cannot do sum, right, because it is not an integer. See, read it. Conversion is not required because it is a string. Now remove sum, finding the sum. What is the array name? Movie list of I. Right? Movie list of I. That's all. The rest of the process is going to be similar. Because write a loop, because this has to be executed repeatedly. Ask me to enter movie name, where it has to be stored. What is the name of your array? Movie list. So movie list of I is equal to console.read line. So movie name is going to be a string. That's why no conversion is required. Here I'm just displaying the list of movies that are available in your movie list array. I want to store 3. Please enter. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Batsman. See, this is my array. Iron Man, Spider-Man, Batsman. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Now I'll give you some exercise. Now you know how to define a static array and how to define a dynamic array based on our requirement at runtime. Right? Any questions?
No.
If no, I'll give you some exercises. Okay. Right. Reverting it back to integer. Okay. Removing some. Removing some. Removing some. Now you can enter, you can store 5 numbers or n numbers based on your requirement. Right? The first question is you have to arrange them in sorting order, like in either ascending or descending order. Your data has to be sorted. Means, for example, how many elements do you want to store? 5. Altered element 12, 10, 23, 32, 22. See, this is my array, right? First element is 12, 10, 23, 32. So I want this to be sorted. Write a program to sort elements of an array. And these elements should be displayed in the ascending order or descending order. It has to be displayed in a particular order. It can be ascending or descending. This has to be sorted. Are you with me? It means you should be displayed something like 10, 12, 22, 23, 32. So this data has to be arranged either in ascending or descending order. This is your exercise. Write a program. Guys, note down. Write a program to sort elements of an array in ascending order. Any questions, guys? Guys, please respond. Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Next, write a program to find minimum or least element of an array. The smallest number of an array. For example, I have stored 5 elements like 12, 10, 22, 23, and 45. You would identify the least number, the minimum value. Write a program to find the highest value of your array, max number, highest. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Next, write a program to concatenate two arrays. Concatenation in the sense, for example, take two arrays, int A and int B. Int A and int B. Okay. Let's say, and take third array, int C. Let's say the size of A is 3. It has 3 elements. Okay. Let's say 10, 20, and 30. Size of B is 4. It has 4 elements. Okay. Let's say 40, 50, 60, 70. Now you have to concatenate these two arrays, A and B. Right? I mean, concatenate A with B. It has 3 locations. It has 4 locations. If I concatenate these two, the size is going to be size of A plus size of B. 3 plus 4, 7. Concatenate these two arrays and store them into third array called C. Then what should be the size of C? Size of C should be size of A plus size of B. It is going to be 3 plus 4 is going to be 7. What should be the size of C? It should be 7. Read me. And the final outcome should look like this. We are concatenating A and B. So C is going to have 7 elements, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So how would I know the size of A and B? So here, apart from size, you can also give something like A dot length. A dot length. What it will give? A dot length is nothing but number of locations that are available in A. A dot length is nothing but size of A. Either you can keep this, for example, if this is not available, some array is given to you. Okay, some array is given to you. Okay, so this is here, you are building it from the scratch, that's why you are aware of everything, the size and everything. For example, I gave you some array. Now you need to do some operations on that array. So how many times that my loop has to be repeated? In order to repeat my loop, I need to know the size. How do I know the size? So if you call the length property, every array comes with a property called length. If you are not aware of the size, if you want to know the size of the array, just call this property. If you say a dot length, it will give you number of elements that are stored in your array, size of your array. So technically, C is nothing but a dot length plus b dot length. Is it clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
So, okay, I will verify these examples tomorrow. Okay, I want you to practice these examples. Okay. Okay, we are done with this. Any questions related to single array, 1D array, one dimensional array?
No, sir.
Okay, next. Let's move towards the next concept. So, as I said, when it comes to arrays, an array can be implemented in two ways, in multiple ways, right? So every array can have multiple dimensions. Now, so far we have seen only one dimensional array. But when it comes to array, it can have n different dimensions. It can have n different dimensions. Okay. It has only one dimension. It has only one row. One row. Single array is nothing but one dimensional array is nothing but it will have only one row, one dimension. This can also be implemented in other different formats. Not only one dimension, a array can have multiple dimensions. Next, we will see how to define a two-dimensional array. How to define a two-dimensional array. So when you talk about a two-dimensional array, it will have two dimensions. Two dimensions means what? Like a row and column. A row and column. Let me create. Okay. Next, let's move towards the next concept, that is 2D array, two-dimensional array. It will have two dimensions. Two dimensions means the first dimension is going to represent your row and second one is going to represent column. Basically, whenever you want to store your data in a matrix format, in other terms, we could also call it as a table format. When the data has to be arranged in a table format, then we require a two-dimensional array. In this case, when the data has to be arranged in a table format, then your array should have two different dimensions, row as well as column. Row is called as one dimension and column is called as another dimension. Okay, it looks something like this. For example, here I have two rows. This horizontal one is called as row and vertical one is called as column. Here I have two rows and two columns. So how do I define my 2D array, two-dimensional array? Simple. It is very similar to your single dimensional array. Access specifier, specify the scope, specify the data type. But here, this square box is going to be divided into two dimensions. Earlier, we were having only one dimension. That's why we did not keep this comma. Now, we are keeping this comma. It means we are dividing this collection into two different dimensions. The first one is going to have rows. Second one is going to define the columns. Are you with me? Here you should tell the system how many rows are to be created and how many columns are to be created. That's why now it has to be split using a comma. You should keep comma. This will define the nature of this collection. It will tell the system, hey, it is going to have two different dimensions. The entire collection is going to be divided into two different dimensions. The first one is going to represent rows. Second one is going to represent columns. Then name of your matrix, name of your table, name of your 2D array is equal to new. Why should I use new? This is the one which will take care of allocating the space for your elements. And data type. Earlier, we have specified only one size because it was a single dimensional. Now it is going to have two dimensions, rows and columns. That's why you should tell the system the size of row and size of column, like how many rows are to be created and how many columns are to be created. Any questions, guys, so far? Guys, you
No,
there?
sir.
Okay. So let's define a simple example. Access specifier, public or private, forget about this. Data type, int, and specify nature of your collection. It is going to be a two-dimensional. So keep this comma in square brackets. And name of your collection, it is A is equal to new data type of how many rows and how many columns are to be created in your array. I want 2 rows and 3 columns are to be created, or 2 rows and 2 columns are to be created. It can be anything based on your requirement. You can give n number of rows and number of columns. In mathematics, we call it as matrix. But in the technology, we call it as a table. Okay, you can call it using any name, but it is going to have 2 dimensions. At the core level, we do call the horizontal dimension as row and vertical dimension as column. Okay, now fine. Now it has 2 rows and 2 columns. The internal representation of your array is going to look like this. It creates 2 rows, row 1 and row 2. And this will get divided. Each row will get divided into 2 columns. Like this. This is column 1 and this is column 2. Okay, so row 1, row 1 and row 2. And this is column 1 and column 2. Okay, now 2, this is going to be 2 by 2 matrix in mathematical terms. 2 by 2 matrix. 2 by 2 means it will have 2 rows and 2 columns. So totally, how many elements can be stored? Row size into column size, 2 into 2. So 4 elements can be accommodated into your matrix. If it is 2 by 3 matrix, how many elements can be stored? So 2 into 3, 6. If it is 3 by 4 matrix, if it has 3 rows and 4 columns, how many elements can be accommodated? 3 into 4, 12. So basically, number of elements that are going to be accommodated is based on your row size and column size, which is nothing but row size into column size. That many elements can be accommodated into your matrix. But now we have defined a 2 by 2 matrix. So I know that 2 into 2, 4. Totally, I can accommodate 4 elements. Now I will ask user to enter first element. Where should I store it? When I enter second element, where should I store it? When I enter third element, where should I store it? So like your one-dimensional array, in order to store those elements into respective location, you should know the address of each and every location of your matrix. What is the address of this? Pretty simple. When it comes to first row, the first row will be available at 0th position. And obviously, second row is going to be at first position. Third row is going to be at second position, third position, fourth position, like your single dimensional array. Always the first row will be available at 0th position. And second row will be available at next position, that is called first. Next. And column, second dimension. Where is my first column? First column will be available at 0th position. Second column will also be available. This is my first column, right? This is my first column. It will be available at 0th position. This is my second column. It will be available at position 1. If there is another column, that will be there at second position, right? We know that when it comes to 2 dimensions, row as well as column, first row will be there at 0th position. Always first row starts from 0. And first column, second dimension, first column also starts from 0. See, whenever the user enters first element, where should I store it? I should store it first location. Where is my first location? This is it.
0, 0.
First row and first column. Where is my first row? 0th position. Where is my first column? 0th position. Try to understand this. Where is my first row? 0th position. Where is my first column? 0th position. So basically, the first location is available at 0, 0. What is the name of my array? A. So the complete address of this location is going to be A of 0, 0. And where is my second location? Yes, here. So this is available at first row, second column. Right? This is available at first row and second column. First row means 0. Second column means 1. So the address is going to be 0, 1. The full address is going to be A of 0, 1. Next. When user enter third element, it should be stored here, third location. But this is available at second row and first column. Second row and first column. What is the index of second row? 1. What is the index of first column? 0. So it is going to be row comma column 1, 0. And this is available at first row, sorry, second row, second column. What is the index of second row? 1. What is the index of second column? 1. It is available at 1, 1. So with this, whenever user enter first element, where it should be stored? A of 0, 0. Next, when user enters second element, where it should be stored? First row, first column. Next, first row, second column. First row means 0. Second column means 1. Are you following me, guys? Next, when user enter third element, where it should be stored? Third location is available at second row. Second row means 1. Second row, first column means 0 is equal to 30. Next, when user enter fourth element, second row, second column, which is nothing but A 1, 1. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. So please let me know, like if something is not clear. Okay. So don't worry. I can explain 10 number of times. Okay.
Okay.
Don't restrict yourself. Okay. Okay. Here, what is our requirement here? Ask user to enter the element. Place that into respective location. That is what our action. The same action has to be repeated for column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3 for every location, right? So again, if something is getting repeated, what has to be done? You should not write that something n different times. Rather, write it only once and get that repeated n different times based on your requirement. If you observe this, the row, first row starts from 0. Go to first row, fill all columns. Next, go to second row, fill all columns. Are you getting me? How do I repeat my loop? First, you have to start from first row. Go to first row. Next, go to second row. Next, go to third row. Go to fourth row. Where is my first row? 0. Where is my second row? 1. Where is my third row? 2. Where is my fourth row? 3. So in order to navigate between rows, you have to write 1 loop. That is going to start from 0 because my first row is available at 0. And based on number of rows, your loop has to be repeated those many times. To go to next row, every time this value has to be incremented with 1. Next, when it comes to first row, again within the row, you have n number of columns. Your first column is available at 0. Second column is available at 1, right? Within that row, again you need to navigate between the columns. So to navigate between the columns, again you need to write one more loop, right? So using that loop, you have to go to first location, second location, third location, and fourth location. So you have to navigate between all the columns of that specific row. So once this row 1 gets filled, next go to row 2, navigate between all the columns, fill them. Next go to row 3, navigate between all the columns, fill them. Okay, let's see how to achieve this. Okay, I am going to remove this. Okay, now let's define a matrix. Let's say a first data type int, and as I said, this collection is going to be split into two dimensions. Next, name of your array a is equal to new int of, give row size and column size. Let's say I want to take 2 rows and 2 columns in each row. I just gave it as 2, 2. Now I can read totally 4 elements. Here I have 2 rows, right? So first, in order to fill first row, first you have to go to row 0. Next you have to go to row 1. Next you go to row 2, row 3. So you need to navigate between different rows. Where is my first row? It is available at 0th position. So I'm going to start from 0. Int row is equal to 0. I'm just taking this variable as row. My first row is available at 0th position. Thus, I'm going to start from 0. How many times it has to be repeated? 2 times. Row is less than 2 because I have only 2 rows. If you have 3 rows, it should be 3. If you have 10 rows, it should be 10. Next, every time it has to be incremented with 1 to take me to next level, next row. Yes. When cursor comes to your for loop, row is equal to 0. Now, I am at first row. I am at first row. Within this row, I can have n number of columns. In order to fill first column, I have to go to first column, where it is at 0th position. Fill this. Next, go to second column, where it is 1 position. Fill this. Next, go to third column, fourth column. So, once it comes inside of your row, again, you need to repeat your loop to go to each and every column and fill the values in the respective locations. And within each row, you need to navigate between all the columns. First, you have to go to column 1, next column 2, column 3, column 4. Right? Go to column, first column, save that element. Go to second column, save that element. Go to third column, save that element. Saving that element is our exercise, is our action. That has to be repeated for each and every column. Again, if something has to be repeated, what has to be done? You need to write one more loop to navigate between columns. So here I'm going to write another loop. Right? Now we are at 0th position. Your row is equal to 0. Within this row, you need to navigate between the columns. So that's why I'm going to define another variable called column is equal to 0. How many times it has to be repeated? I have 2 columns in each row. So this is going to be 2. And every time it has to be incremented with 1 to take me to next column. Right? Now, when control comes to your first for loop, your row is equal to 0. It means I'm at first row. And within this, how many times this loop has repeated? This is external loop. This is internal loop. Okay. And within this, within each row, again, this loop, internal loop is going to be repeated 2 times because every row has 2 columns. So this has to be repeated 2 times. In every row, I need to fill 2 locations. That's why I'm asking loop to repeat this for 2 times. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Now here I should ask, now I'm at row 0, column 0. Row 0, column 0 means I am at first location. Now ask user to enter the element, store it into respective location. Here I will ask the user. Okay. Now I'm defining a variable called element. Int element. Here I will ask user to enter the number. Console dot write line. Okay. And this is also not required. You can directly store it. Console dot write line. Please enter an element. Right? Now, where it should be stored? What is my array name? A. Where it should be stored? It should be stored at 0th row and 0th column. Row, comma, column. When it comes to first iteration, what is the value of row? 0. What is the value of column? 0. So 0, comma 0. It is an integer, so it has to be converted. Convert dot 2 into 32. How? Console dot read line. Right? Let's see. Let me keep a breakpoint. Now what I will do, I'll keep a pin for row as well as column. Row, column. Now A. See, how many locations are created? 0, 0, 0, 1. 0 means first row, first location, first row, second location. Next. 1 means second row, first location, second row, second location. Okay. Now we are at first row. What is the column? Pin it. Where are we? Now, row is equal to 0. We are in first row, right? Now column is equal to 0. Now we are at first row, and within first row, we are at column 0, means first column. Where it is? Here it is. First row 0, first column 0. Where are we? We are at 0, comma 0, means first location of your matrix. Row is equal to 0, column is equal to 0. Now ask user to enter first element. For example, 2. Now see. 2 got stored at 0, comma 0. Right? Row 0, column 0. Now what happens? Now row will not be incremented. So now your internal loop will be executed repeatedly until this condition becomes false. Once the condition becomes false, then only it will go outside of your loop. Then external loop value will be incremented. All right, me. So now what happens? Immediately row will not be incremented because we are inside this internal loop. Now this is getting executed repeatedly. Now we are filling all the columns in this first row, right? So this loop will be repeated till the condition is true. Now column is 0. What is our condition? It has to be repeated 2 times, right? Now column is going to be incremented. See, what is the value of column? 1. Row is still 0 only because we are still inside the internal loop only. Once it comes outside of this, then row will be incremented. So 0, comma 1. Where is 0, comma 1? Here is 0, comma 1. Means we are at first row and second column. Now it will ask users to enter second element. Let's say 4. See. At 0, comma 0, we have placed 2. At 0, comma 1 means first row, first column, 2. First row, second column, 4. Now what happens? We have only 2 columns. This loop will be repeated only 2 times. Now it will check the condition. The condition is true? No. Column has become 2, but we don't have third column. So condition will become false. Now it will go to external loop. Now what happens? Now your row will get increased. Your row will get incremented with 1. So what happens? The first row has completed. We have filled all the columns in the first row. Now row will become 1. It means now it will go to second row. Within second row, again it will start from 0. Why? Again within second row, again the first column is available at 0th position only. In every row, the first column starts from 0. That's why again it will start from 0. What is the value of row? 1. What is the value of column? 0. 1, comma 0. 1 means we are at second row. Column 0 means at first column. Here 1, comma 0. We are at second row and first column. Now third element will be filled there. Class user to enter third element. C. Next, column will become 1. 1, comma 1. Where are we? Here. We are at second row and second column. It asks user to enter fourth element. 8. Now see, all locations are filled. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Here we are filling values into those respective locations. Now, if I want to get the values from your array, you should do the same thing. Go to first row, pick the value from first location. Where is my first element is available? It's a of 0, comma 0. You have to print a of 0, comma 0. Print a of 0, comma 1. Print a of 1, comma 0. Print a of 1, comma 1. Okay. Let's see how to print it. Now, in order to print also, what should I do? First, I should go to first row, then go to first column. Get that element, print it. Within the first row, go to second column, go to third column. Again, I'd be needing 2 loops to print my elements. One for navigating between the rows, one for navigating between the columns within the row. What I'm doing, I'm just going to print it. Here, what is my action? I have to ask you to enter the element, read it, place it into respectively. Here, what is my action? I should just print this. A of row, comma, column. And give some space. right? Now run this. Please enter an element 2, 4, 6, 8. All my elements are displayed here, but those elements are not displayed in matrix format, table format, right? How do I display them? So yeah, don't use a right line, use right. What it will do? First, it will display first element, and second element will be displayed in the same line because I'm using right. Once first row gets completed, once it comes outside of the loop, now second row has to be displayed in the second line, not in the same line. Here I have to use console dot right line. After completing every row, what has to be done? The control should go to next line. What happened? Two, 4, 6, 8. Here it is right line. I'm sorry. Console dot right line. Here it should go there. This is the reading part, right? We have to display in the right.
Yeah,
So
and writing part. Yeah.
right. And once it comes outside of the loop, here it should write console dot
Right line.
Okay. Now run this. 2, 4, 6, 8. See. Let's change the size. Now here we are hard coding this size. This is called static 2-dimensional array. Now I don't want to hard code it. Let's leave it to the user. Ask user to enter row size and hey, how many rows and how many columns do you want to create? Okay. So let's leave this to user. Do not specify anything. Now ask user to enter this. Int row size, int column size. Ask user to enter it. Console dot right line. How many rows to be created? Right? Once he enters this, read it. Row size is equal to, so it is an integer, so it has to be converted. Convert dot to int 32 of console dot read line. Next, ask him to enter column size. How many columns to be created? Read that into column size. Right? Now we are making it dynamic. We are not hard coding anything. Right? We are going to get this thing on the fly from the user based on his requirement. Now this is not going to be 2. This is going to be your row size. Row size. Row is less than row size. And this is going to be your column size. Column is less than column size. This is called dynamic array. Now run this. Now ask user to enter. Depends. Okay. Right. What is this? Now, user has provided your row size and column size. Now, what has to be done? What has to be done? Now, your array has to be initialized with these many rows and these many columns. How do I initialize it? A is equal to new int of
New int of
row size comma column
column
size.
size.
Right? Now what happens? Yes, user has entered how many rows and how many columns are to be created. Now create them dynamically at runtime. So these many rows, these many columns will be created inside this. Now you can read those many elements and print those many elements. How many rows to be created? I want to create 3 by 4 matrix. I want 3 rows and 4 columns. How many rows will be created? 3 rows and 4 columns. So how many elements can be accommodated? 3 into 4. So total you can store 12 elements. Now please enter an element. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. See, this is my matrix. 3 by 4 matrix. 3 rows. In each row we have 4 columns. Column 1, column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you understand the process of reading and writing? This is
Yes,
very,
sir.
very important. How to read it, how to write it. So how to write the logic, that is very, very important. Okay. Now I'll give you some examples. Okay. Write a program. Write a program to find sum of elements of a matrix. To find sum of elements of a matrix. Matrix in the sense your 2D array
Okay.
of a 3 by 4 matrix. 3 by 4 matrix. Do not hard code anything. Get those from runtime. Or you can take any size, 3 by 4 or 4 by 3, whatever it is.
Okay.
Next, write a program to find least element of your matrix. Write a program to find highest element of your matrix. And write a program to find diagonal elements of a matrix. If you practice this, you will become master at writing the logics. Write a program to find diagonal elements of a matrix. Write a program to find sum of diagonal elements. Diagonal elements means something like this.
0, 0, 1, 1.
Exactly. For example, if I take 3 by 3 matrix, okay, this is my 3 by 3 matrix, right? Here I have 10, 20, 30, and there should be a rule for diagonal. What is that? 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90. Here, what is diagonal? This cross one. 10, 10, 50, 90. These are diagonals. Next, 30, 50, 70. 10, 50, 90. This is one diagonal. And another diagonal is 70, 50, 30 or 30, 50, 70. To make it diagonal, what should be the size of row and column? The sizes should be identical. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
I mean, the row size should be equivalent to column size. Otherwise, it doesn't form any diagonal. If the sizes are different, it doesn't form any diagonal. Okay. And these are the exercises for this.
Okay. Sir, can we stop here? I need to go some.
Okay. And
Yeah.
tomorrow we will discuss other collections.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Have a wonderful day. We'll meet tomorrow at regular time.
Okay, sir, can I have a small request? Can we start 15 minutes late from the regular time today?
Okay, no problem.
15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes maybe.
Only for today or daily?
Or it's better if it's daily, sir. Just 15 minutes, sir.
No problem, man. We can do
15
that.
minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so where is Sridhar? He's already left.
Yeah, he. I think he left in the middle of the session. I realized it now.
Oh,
Haven't seen
not good,
him
man.
from
Because
the
see,
middle.
I explained, the logic at low level, right?
Yeah.
If you go through readings, you cannot understand it. So here, you get a chance to, like ask me n number of questions, right? If you do not understand something. Okay, but
Yes,
my
sir.
recommendation, start practicing the things, practicing more number of examples.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay. Start writing the examples on your own. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, right. Chalo, bye.
Okay. Thank you, sir.